your microphones on, please.
All right, you're good to go.
And to call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock. We're going to stand up and say the pledge after a group steps. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to welcome all of the new members here tonight. I know nothing about you because I did not know we had new members, so thank you for being here.
Sure.
I'm going to start with the approval of our last minutes, which were from October 12th. Do I have a motion to approve this? Handle it, and then I'll second, and then as long as they are all in favor, we're good. All in favor? Public comment, not really anything, but we're going to go right into new business, and we have Jill and Grace here from the Edible Classroom to give us a little presentation. So, Melissa, take it away.
Thank you. Shall I stand by this laptop so I can advance the slide?
Yes. And if you let's turn this mic on.
Oh, good. I'll sit here then. That's great. Well, I'm Grace Julian, co-founder of the Edible Classroom, and this is Jill Roach, community liaison here in Columbia. Thank you so much. I feel like I'm among friends here. We appreciate being partners here in Columbia for the last 6 years. And advance, I just go like that. There it is. This is Park. On the left, you'll see 6 years ago, students on the playground started the garden, and it's been thriving ever since. Our relationship in Park with the students has grown to 28 lessons during the spring and fall seasons when the students are in school, and our weekly summer camps in the summer that we invite all Columbia residents, 1st grade through 6th grade, to come attend camp, and it's sponsored by area organizations, and so it's free for the Columbia resident children to come to camp. And all the things that they plant and all the things that they grow ends up in their hands or their mouths during our lessons, or we send them home in bags for the students to share with their families. And if you've driven by Taylor this year, it has gone from an empty, vacant spot on the playground to now a garden. This is a science experiment in process. I chuckle when I think of Taylor because it is truly just all on blacktop, and so it is a challenge for the most experienced gardener, but thus far so good. We have a lot of, we usually like to plant natives to draw in the pollinators, and so we put a lot of herbs and native plants in tires along the perimeter to add additional growing space. The students there come out, it's a smaller school, so we have less lessons there. The students come out twice in the spring and fall, 18 total lessons at Taylor during the school day. And then we were blessed to be part of the extended school year program. You'll see that picture in the bottom where students who benefit from additional instruction to prevent learning loss over the summertime are invited to stay for 6 weeks during the summer. And so we were a partner there, and it was especially sweet because some of the life skills students at Taylor were the ones that planted the potatoes that then harvested the potatoes this summer. So that went full circle for them. And oh, it was so yummy. We were there sauteing peppers and potatoes and garlic and onions straight from the garden. And then this being a very community central school, we invited the community on a couple open house days. We didn't have camp here, but instead we had some community open houses, which is where I met Jill for the first time. And it has been a lovely relationship ever since. Jill joined our staff very soon after that, and we are delighted to welcome her as a team member.
And just to add, my 2 older kids go to Taylor, and so they have talked about the garden getting started, and that's how I first kind of heard about it and then you see it driving by. So I was so happy to hear about this program as a parent.
And we're glad to have you on our team. Jill is especially important in the Hill campus, which is new this fall. This has been quite a year for our relationship here in Columbia Borough. Jill's position is community liaison to the Columbia community for the purpose of connecting the garden to the community and the community back to the garden at the Hill campus. This initiative is in large part due to the United Way. We were chosen to be a fellow in their Level Up and Launch grant program. And so for this last few months and extending until June of 2024, we have United Way support and a lot of community partnerships to be at the Hill campus every Friday to establish the physical garden. So it went from a grassy plot to now completely covered with 21 cubic yards of Jake Graham's leaf compost from the compost facility, and in addition to a lot of leaves and a lot of vegetable scraps that Jill is connecting community eateries to collect extra food scraps, because we are teaching the children pretty much how to build a garden from existing very low cost materials. So they're up in the woods collecting rotted timbers to make perimeters for some of the beds, because that introduces some of that good fungus. They covered the growing surface, it's 3,500 square feet. They've covered that with cardboard. Another big part that Jill has played, she has gone around to many businesses here in Columbia and knocked on their doors to collect cardboard. And so the students laid that down to suppress the grass growth, and then the leaf compost on top of that, and then the food scraps from the cafeteria, in addition to food scraps from many local eateries, and all the leaves that we're mixing together, those greens and browns, to, it's truly a permaculture experiment there, how to use existing organic materials to make a rich growing medium to grow the vegetables in. And you'll see in the middle there, our first plants went in a few weeks ago. Those are strawberry plants from Home Fields Care Farm in Millersville. We donated those plants. So we're off and running, and next semester we will be introducing our program to some more high school students. This semester has been 7th and 8th. Then high school students, and then part of the initiative with United Way is to provide upward mobility for the community, and so we get to employ students in the caring and tending of the garden. So once it's planted in March, it will then be cared for until the end of June by some of the students who apply for a job with the Edible Classroom. So that's just beautiful. And I probably have just a few more minutes, so I'll fly through who we are. And everything we do, no matter what age of student we're working with, these are foundational layers of what we bring to the table. Everything we do during the school day is relevant because it's based in the state standards. And whether we're teaching a child how to read a seed packet or giving them some basic culinary skills of how to prepare something simply with no heat and sometimes with heat during garden camp, or giving them skills for life. We see how children respond to nature. It's quite beautiful and quite natural for some who don't excel in the classroom. They may find a place to excel here in the garden. It is a positive environment where students are given the opportunity, never forced, but being part of the process, we see them more inclined to try something. It cracks me up, the things that they say. I don't like broccoli, but I like this broccoli. Because of the process. You know, process is so, versus product, you know, that's such a good life lesson. And I see it play out in the gardens. If they're part of picking those bad bugs off and watering at recess and all the steps, then they might be like, oh, sure, try. And every now and again we have some extra produce, which we wheel our little veggie cart up to the entrance at park and give away whatever's extra there in the garden. And at summer camp, it's so sweet. I love seeing these older guys here underneath the canopy at summer camp this summer. They served the community on the last day of camp. We invite community and family members to enjoy the student-created snacks. So if we have extras, we love to share with the community. And feel free to reach out to me via my email address. Sylvia has this. She can share with you all. And Jill's email is the same. It's just jill@theedibleclassroom.org. We love volunteers, and we're especially interested in your input for the community, the school-based community garden at the Hill campus. That's a whole new venture for us. It's not just for the students there, but because of its size, it can reach out to beyond. And so if you have ideas, share them. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you.
And for those of you that don't know, not this past summer, but the summer before is probably actually before the summer is when I was introduced to Grace through Mark, I believe, somehow. And we did Parks and Rec and the Edible Classroom did an event at Rotary Park where we made planters out of 5-gallon buckets. And not a ton of people came, but by the time we were actually making the buckets, there was a nice amount of kids there that just stumbled upon it, which honestly was even more fun because they saw what was happening and wanted to join. It wasn't something that they were planning on doing, but it was a great event and everyone that was there had great feedback on it. And then this past summer, the Edible Classroom came to my church and we did the same event. And for the next, 4 months, I would hear from everyone that was at that event, oh, my garden's doing this, oh, I got this out of it. So it was lots of fun, and it spread awareness to the Edible Classroom, which was the goal, especially for bringing them to church, too. Grace is full of ideas and loves to collaborate, so please don't let the relationship with Edible Classroom Parks and Rec end once I'm not here, but also don't let our relationship end because I would still love to help Edible Classroom.
Thank you, everyone.
I do have a question. Do you do like private things? So I do a learn new thing with parents and kiddos here in Columbia at the Head Start building. Do you ever do anything like that? Or
Email me, please. I'd love to have a conversation with you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So Grace, your involvement, is it concentrated to Columbia or do you do work in other communities?
We do in 12 different schools here in Lancaster County. We're Lancaster County based thus
Okay,
far.
all right.
6 schools in the school district of Lancaster, a few in Penn Manor.
Okay, and then you organize all 6 of those
No,
programs?
Beth and I are co-founders and
Okay.
we divide and conquer.
Okay.
Beth is school district of Lancaster and then everybody else,
Okay,
including you guys in Penn Manor and any other fun projects that come our way.
okay.
Do you only use school properties?
That's a good question. Thus far, that seems to make the most sense for us. Good question though, because that rolls around in our head at this time of year as we reflect on where we've been and where we're going. Because school properties are so accessible to students, there's no need for transportation, there's no hurdles to overcome for that in education. It seems to be our best impact place. And Park and Taylor's gardens are on playgrounds, so isn't that fun? During playground time, they're lined up to compete to get a chance at the watering can. It's a beautiful.
Would like a section of Borough Parks be an opportunity, like a section of Rotary or section of Nickel or something like that to work with?
It could be. Yeah, please reach out. I love all these questions and the thought behind all of this. It makes sense to me how to make it happen practically so that the garden is cared for regularly is a big question for me, but together.
So your collaborations with the schools, obviously that's cultivated, you have a model that works. So anything new that's created, you have that experience to lean on, to kind of like explained how that can work.
No contact. And the relationships within the community, like this is beautiful, I'm grateful for the time here tonight. That we've been able to do some different things over the years.
I know I toured the Boys and Girls Club here. They have a courtyard, an open air courtyard. That's pretty pathetic, actually. Right now, it's just concrete and barren walls, and not utilized for really anything specific. But that's where a high concentration of children are on a routine basis.
Yes.
That could be an opportunity, I think, for an edible garden to be created there. A lot like a school, but not a school, but where children are all the time.
Yes, on a regular basis.
And you have, obviously, a staff through the Boys and Girls Club organization that could back,
Provide some oversight.
whatever efforts are required.
That's very interesting.
There's been discussion about how we can add a community garden in one of the parks. And there hasn't been a perfect answer in what park it could go in, but there are ideas, and I think it's definitely something that the community would want. It's just how do we take care of it, and how do we make sure it doesn't get vandalized, and we can actually use what comes out of the work that people put into it, like how to make it fair too. So just a little seed there to think about. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
It's one of those days.
Yeah.
This is great. It's one of those days.
Was communication.
Okay, so old business is Locust Street Park. That's at 550 Locust Street. We talked about it last month in just a overview. The town gardeners, which is Mrs. Lutz and Mrs. Thomas, so the mayor's wife and one of her friends who goes to my church, they've been taking care of that little plot of land for the past 10 or so years, and every time I see them, especially Mrs. Thomas, she asks, and I just saw her today, so what's happening up there? Because I can't keep taking care of it when it's falling apart. I said, I know we're working on it, but it's the whole, how do you get the money and all that stuff. The fountain is what we mostly talked about last time. But Hope, I'm just going to read some of the email that Hope sent to me after she talked to Wilson about the fountain. He got a cost to replace the fountain some time ago, and it was about $6,000. He believes it can be fixed, but he hasn't had a plumber come look at it. He thinks we should decide if it needs to stay or go. And he mentioned that he thinks it is in good shape other than the plumbing issue, so it's not necessarily the fountain that's our problem. It's a closed water system, so it has a water bill, but it's minor. And it does operate an electric pump 24/7, so maybe that's the bill that we brought up last time, that was constant. So I'd be curious to know what the water bill is, or what the electric bill is. And based on conversations with Mrs. Thomas, it's the mortar around the bricks that's falling apart. So I think it's more of a basin repair than it is the fountain. I'm not saying the fountain is negated, but the masonry stuff is more of a safety issue than the fountain itself is. So just general tidying up of that area. So I can ask Hope to, as my last duty, ask Hope to talk about the dates and stuff unless someone else would like to take that, but I know she's the one that is technically working in the borough throughout the day, so it's easier for her to do that on her job time, where I don't think the rest of us necessarily can. And then I guess scheduling a cleanup day to help Mrs. Thomas and Mrs. Lutz would probably something good to put on the calendar yearly. they, I think, love planning, but tearing out all of the weeds and everything is a lot for them. They're not, young, and carrying all the waste out is a bit of a problem. But they are happy to do it, they just need a little help, and we can probably take some of the labor. And that is something that I, in the future, will be happy to come, like, if we all plan a day, I will still come in with that cleanup.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
This is the park right on the corner.
Yeah, it's almost like a little seating area, and then it is a park.
And that's what they're taking care of.
Yes.
Does Public Works ever run it? Is that, don't they do like run rate?
I'm not sure where that is. Do you know if Public Works does, or could do the 550 Fifth Street lot?
Do what?
Like the maintenance.
Like they do at Maplewood Rotary.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
That's a good question.
Yeah. I will send Hope an email about, and Mark, just about both of those things. But even still, I know that the Public Works people have a lot on their list, and if we can get a couple volunteers to go out there, and, I mean, right now it's not the time to do it anyway, so I'm just gonna keep an eye, like, at this point, it's fine, but come March, like, 4 people in 3 hours, it should be done pretty easily. And have Mrs. Thomas and Mrs. Lutz there to tell us what they want, because it's their thing, they love it, they just can't do the.
Right, I would have them pick a day, and then we try to create volunteers around what they said for a day.
And I'm wondering if input from them could be provided to us. Maybe it's more than once a year, maybe they need us spraying in the fall, or I don't know if they do seasonal plantings, like where, some plants are planted certain times of the year. Maybe they do a changeover, but maybe with their input, they could tell us, it would be nice to have like 2 scheduled times or 3 scheduled.
I will ask him. That is true too. Mrs. Thomas, I know today, she was down at church tearing out all the stuff that was dead from the summer. And she was like, your dad came and carried it all away, and that was so nice. I was like, well, that is his job. I'm glad that he was there and you didn't have to try to figure that out.
It's nice that they're that devoted to that park. Like, I didn't realize, like, I don't know these individuals. It's kind of neat that they're stepping up. It seems like they've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, they said, I think 10 years or so. But there's still money that's gonna have to be spent at some point to fix the bricks. She's afraid that a kid's gonna be walking on them, which they shouldn't be doing anyway, but they're gonna fall and there's gonna be an issue because she said it's money.
Does the borough have like a contracted mason sort of thing, or is it up to us to like quote?
I will add Mark that. Yeah, I promised Mrs. Thomas that I would make sure something happens with this, so I will continue to talk to Mark and Hope about it, but just so you know, it continues to be checked up on.
I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. I do think what Elizabeth had said about Public Works and what their purview is an important thing to clarify. Just going forward, like, it would just be a good question to know the answer to. And it's not us saying that they should, it's just a question is, is this a responsibility that falls under you? And if so, then, it's just a matter of this committee or this board communicating back and forth to another community entity. Awareness, if we're made aware, then we can help them. Say, well, this is what,
I think it's just one of the things that kind of fell under the rug and no one knew for whose responsibility it was, but Mrs. Thomas kept at it, and now they're.
I'm gonna close this door.
Good thing, yeah.
Next thing of old business is the Remake Mako fundraiser, which I don't think we've had anything else on that at this point, but just a slight update, I mean, just a general overview of what's happening. We received a grant from the state for Maple Park, it's a matching grant. So money will need to be fundraised in some way. There have been many talks about how we can fundraise, such as selling bricks and benches and all of that fun stuff that comes with a park in general. Where we kind of stopped with it is Parks and Rec as an advisory board and part of the borough can't fundraise themselves. So the brick thing was kind of in a gray area, and I think we would have been able to do that. But having a event at the Market House, which is what we talked about, was not a possibility because that was collecting funds from many different sources. And it's very much a fundraiser. So to get around that, the answer is connecting with different organizations in the town, such as the Lions Club or any of the churches or Great Columbia, any nonprofit that has a interest in the town, and letting the fundraiser run through them. Not that our board can't help. I would encourage Parks and Rec to still help and do as much of the heavy lifting as possible, but they have to take the money and then donate it to the borough to actually pay for the park. And then we stopped there also because we're still waiting on the plans to be finalized for Maple. So until the plans were finalized to the point where we could go out to the community and say, this is what we're building, this is how much money we need to raise to match this grant, can you help us? It's hard for someone to pull any money out of their pockets when they don't understand what we're putting into the park. But there have been conversations about what we are adding to the park, what's changing from the original master plan. And Mark knows a lot of that, and I believe it's in the borough engineer's hands, at least that's what I've been told. So I'm hoping that something comes out of that in the next little bit here. Today Mark said, you know, in 2024, the park will be like moving forward. So I hope that is the case. Did I miss anything with Maple in general? Does anyone want to bring anything else up? That's all we have on our agenda, but
So what happens if we don't raise the money?
that's not enough.
How much is the grant for?
500,000.
And it's a 50/50?
No, it's a,
We have to have like, it's less than 60,000 and they're paying the, whatever the total was.
That was when they applied for the grant, was it AT&T, Verizon?
it was the T-Mobile grant, but we didn't
T-Mobile,
get that
but we
one.
didn't get that. They applied for it at the same time, thinking that if they got it, it would pay our part, but we didn't get that grant. So whatever money,
It was
It's
like
not raised
50
here.
grand or something, so nothing insane, but it's.
No, not at all. That should be pretty easily attained.
At our last meeting in October, we talked about how the board could get around some of that stuff, and I forget the exact terminology, but it would be adding a subsidy that's specifically focused on Maple Park. So just something else to keep in mind, and I would be happy to be on and serve on that Maple Park board.
So the River Park has an ad hoc committee, which is,
Thank you.
right, which is basically just citizens who came together and bring our ideas to council for Parks and Rec. So a Maple ad hoc would do the same thing. Just people getting together, come up with ideas or direction, and then submitting it. Either then go through Parks and Rec and then the council is the way I would like to see it, but,
Is ad hoc allowed to fundraise?
No, ad hoc
So then that
still
doesn't
is
fix
the
the
committee
problem.
of the,
And he had a really good idea one time of a subcommittee, which would be allowed to fund.
well,
this.
that'd be the same as ad hoc. So, I don't think, I'm gonna have to check with that. It's not that you can't fundraise.
It was something about all the money coming in through the borough and us
So-
not having the resources to be able to handle it,
So the money would have to come in through general account.
which I think was the problem.
And that is a problem, because then Mark gets his hands on it. But, the best way around it would be to team up with, like, let's say the Lions, or even the Susquehanna, or a big well-known club in Columbia. And some snappers, I think all of them. But team up with one of them, let them host it. They have a 501c, a 503c, I guess it is. They would then in turn make the money, but then donate it back to the borough for Parks and Rec. And then it would go into Parks and Rec alone.
Do we have, like, is it a matter of just talking with one of the community nonprofits to champion the fundraiser?
I think that is the second step. I think the first step is knowing exactly what's going in the park and how to tell it to the community. I mean, anyone could start talking to the Lions Club or
Right.
anyone at this point and say, when you're ready, we're ready, is this something you're willing to do?
So I'm hearing, just a point of clarification, I'm hearing that there's a, I'm sorry, I have to look at what I wrote with classes. So I heard that there's a borough engineer that is finalizing plans for the park. But I'm also hearing that there's an idea for an ad hoc committee of citizens to identify what is needed for the park. Is that correct?
I think the ad hoc at this point would be more of the fundraising side of it. And yeah, I'm not sure exactly what.
So, yeah, I mean, theoretically, I come in this kind of blind. I'm not sure, you guys have plans already?
We had the master plans and then we had a meeting where we sat with, and Mark was here and we went through everything that we talked about. And
Okay.
said, this is what we want, this is
So
what it should be.
the plan exists.
Yeah, but I don't think it's been drawn up, which is what we're leading on.
Yeah,
So.
that's more technical, dirt placement, everything else. So the ad hoc committee, that would be like a fundraising committee, basically. And they would decide how they're gonna do fundraisers, who they're gonna team up with, and stuff like that. And they would get the man to do the fundraisers. Because I don't think you wanna go to a club and say, hey, can you help us out here? By the way, you have to do all the work, you know? But,
Ad hoc would just hopefully be taking the work off of just this board specifically.
yeah, their focus would be that. more
So
or less.
how do we go about creating the ad hoc? Do we,
You have to find people that are willing to be on it, that would be valuable to.
and would that be would that then be the charge for this committee to try to put that ad hoc together?
Yeah, Pam ran one successfully. All right, I'm sorry, Pam. I'm sorry. Barb, you ran one successfully, very successfully, the comp plan. So, how's that?
The planning commission appointed me as the chair. And then the planning commission chair, myself and Mark, we all got together and brainstormed with community members. But what my opinion is that you have the same people doing the same thing all the time. The people that just go from committee to committee because you know that they're gonna say yes. If I was going to do it, the first thing I would do is go to the Maple Park neighborhood and ask the neighbors. Ask Kurt Edmond, ask some of the neighbors there who are involved in Maple Park, and if they would be interested in serving on an ad hoc committee and getting some people who are invested
Right.
in their neighborhood park and what happens there.
I agree with that 100%. It's gonna be the best input, the best results. I have been looking forward to it.
And is the chair of the ad hoc committee supposed to be on Parks and Rec, or doesn't it matter?
The chair, yeah, but the chair generally is part of it.
I was part of the planning commission when she asked me, but I wasn't a part of the planning commission for the whole time. I was the chair.
I would think I would think that one person from Parks and Rec, one of us, it makes sense that somebody should be a little bit of a glue to kind of help solidify the ad hoc committee to be involved sort of step by step. Not necessarily chair or lead ad hoc, but kind of be part of the ad hoc.
So, as council members, we don't, it used to be we had committees, and we had serve on certain committees. That changed, but now we all have responsibilities as it is on committee to committee.
Okay.
So that we can bring it back to council. So that's pretty much your side.
Yeah, liaison. Yeah, I use the word glue.
Yes.
But liaison's a better term.
But Sylvia, you're saying that we should, the first step is to have those plans.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
I would think so, but it also wouldn't be a bad idea to go and talk to community members and see if they're willing. Because we always think the Gambies and Lion Club. Maybe they're not even interested and don't want to do it, so we can't just bank on them saying yes. So maybe you do want to talk to them, but also if you talk to someone, make sure you explain that we're not ready for them yet. It's not like, okay, this is tomorrow.
Right.
I do think before you really talk to anybody and get a commitment or ask for a commitment, you should have plans. So that you can go out and say,
I agree.
this is what we want to do. Can you be a part of it?
So,
And also let them know what their role is going to be.
Right.
That needs to be decided.
so we probably should ask, how soon are the plans going to be final? How soon are the plans going to be ready for us to be used to present to the ad hoc and to some of the community nonprofits? And then does the grant have any stipulations? Like, is there a timeline associated with the grant? Like, for us to,
Most of the stipulations came from us having to have the plans existing when we applied for it, because it was a whole COVID thing. And I knew the plans could change slightly afterwards, but it had to be the base of what was already set in stone. They were seeking places to put money that already existed and were waiting for money, not, new, like, oh, there's a grant, let me go try to get it, and then try to make up something for it. I'm not sure about stipulations.
so the grant's pretty much guaranteed to us, right? And it's a matching grant, so
No,
it's not.
50,000, between 50 and 60, I think.
Okay,
And they're even us 450.
450. Okay,
So by the end of it, we'll have 5,000 or 500,000 total.
gotcha.
And we discussed this at council too, and whatever is not raised, fundraising will come out of general fund. So we want to try and raise as much as we can so we don't have to do that.
And there were some things that we put on the plans that it was like, this would be really nice to have, but if something has to get cut, that's what's getting cut. So us not being able to raise that 50,000 or whatever the end number ends up being, doesn't mean it's not happening. It just means that we might not get, you know, the water fountains built to the side of the building, or like those extra benches, whatever it may be.
And I understand that there's some things that our public works department can do,
Yes.
which would be,
And that counts for the matching part of it as well. So us paying Public Works, their salaries and the equipment and materials to do that goes towards that chunk of money that we owe.
Oh, I see.
And I'm hoping it says what it's charged as and not what we actually pay.
Right.
I mean, our guys to do it, it might cost us, say, like $5,000, but really if you would bring anyone else in, it would be 15 or.
I'm sorry, I have so many questions. I guess I'm arriving late in the game. But, so, the allocation of funds for this park is in what amount and where is that money coming from? So the allocation of the park funds is,
So, right now, I received a grant. That grant is a value of $450,000.
okay,
who was that from? Do you know?
The state.
With the state of county.
That was the state.
and this is a grant for this park, for this particular park?
Yeah,
Okay.
they presented a plan.
Okay,
In order to get the grant, you have to present a plan.
Right.
Like funding
The plan is
law.
on the borough website.
Okay.
If you wanna see
Oh, that's
it,
good.
It's on the master plan.
oh, thank you, okay, good.
So,
It was a DCNR grant.
That's right, okay.
And so the $50,000 goal for fundraising, that's our goal, is because
The
the
borough
pro-
has to come up with that in order to get that grant and be able to use it.
Oh, okay. All right, good, I got it now. Light bulb just went on.
most grants
Okay.
aren't just giving us free money. Most grants have a matching requirement.
Okay.
Most of our borough grants are like 50-50. So I was.
This is awesome.
Once in a
This is-
lifetime.
Yeah, pretty pleased to hear
That's great.
this.
That's
It's
great.
from Governor Wolf technically, but it's $478,300 from the Community Conservative Partnership Program and the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources.
Okay. And so part of the park plan was, when we presented for the grant, the park plan, we said that it was gonna cost this much money, right? Somebody said that it was gonna,
Yeah.
We picked the part of the master plan that made sense for the grant that we were seeking.
okay. All right, thank you. No more questions.
So now we're at the point where to move forward and start development, we have to come up with $50,000,
Right,
roughly.
yeah, okay.
But before we can make the money, we have to have the official plans to be able to show people what we're doing.
Well, no, I think if you have
The master
the master plan already drawn, I think
That's close enough.
I think so.
Maybe people want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, if you see that you have a plan and an idea,
And Barbara, you had mentioned somebody by name that lives in that
Oh,
nearby community.
Kurt Edmund
Edmund.
was our vice chair.
that was
Today's his
just
last
an
meeting,
example.
Okay.
But he would
But
be
he-
the perfect person to, he should be on that committee, and then he could help pick people in that community that are associated with Maple Park.
And he does a lot of events in that park,
it is.
And he's pretty active.
Yes.
in his community,
Yeah.
yeah.
All the basketball tournaments that are down there, that's Kurt, among a bunch of other things.
That's good.
I think that's it. The next meeting is,
Is anyone going to reach out to the people in the neighborhood?
Well, I think the first thing is to get the plan, I think before we do that.
on here, it says the next meeting is January 22nd, but that's a Monday. So I think.
Yeah, I think that they advertised your regular day when we didn't.
So the 25th, okay.
So it's the 25th?
Yeah, it should be the 25th. I missed that on the minutes, or the agenda. And at the next meeting, I believe you should be prepared to discuss roles and who's chair and vice chair. It'll be the first meeting as a new board, so.
Is this like our own board, everybody here?
Minus me. Poe should be there.
Barbie's still here. And there's another person.
Todd.
There's another person possibly.
Thor, will you send out like a new contact list if you have everyone's information?
I can.
So a motion to adjourn at 6:45.
Second.
Okay, I'm good for the motion.
Oh.
A second. It's okay.
Eric.
I'm sorry.
No, it's
Eric
okay.
I thought you
always-
were motioning.
No, sorry. I don't think I can. Maybe I can. I
My
don't know.
stomach's growling. so-
I don't know.
My first motion.
Okay.
And thank you.
Thank you. So,
And
are we all?